Hello there, and welcome to my advanced Rey guide for lightsaber combat. In this video I will cover her basic character stats, abilities, star cards, and some advanced tips and tricks, for example how you can deal from 490 to 600 damage with one combo, and at the end I will give you some tips about which enemy hero abilities you need to be careful with as Rey, and how you can counter them. I think I will also add some sort of timestamps in the video description, so in case you already have some experience with Rey and want to skip the basic parts, feel free to do that. Also keep in mind that this guide is mainly for lightsaber combat, however most of it can probably be transferred to the large scale game modes anyways. Okay, let's start with her base stats. She deals 120 damage in the front and 140 in the back. However, while insight is enabled, she gets 10 extra damage. If you have the opportunist star card equipped and your opponent is mind tricked, you get 15 extra damage. Her swing speed is about 1.9 swings per second, and her launch distance is very far. Far enough to lock after Grievous's thrust surge with her launch distance. Her stamina is pretty much average, I guess, but can vary depending on if Insight is active, which gives 50% stamina drain reduction, and which star cards you use. Her stamina regen delay is 1 second, and her regen speed is 1.65 seconds, which is pretty good. Her health stats also fall in the average category, I would say. Her base health is 750 HP, max health regen is 250, and health regen delay is 5 seconds, and she regenerates with a rate of 50 HP per second. And just like literally every other hero in the game, for each hero elimination she gets 100 HP, and for each trooper elimination she gets 20 HP. Okay, let's quickly go through her abilities. Her first and most important ability is her dash strike. What you should know about this ability is that you can cancel it with a normal swing, with a dodge, and just by pressing the ability button again. However, I would recommend to cancel it with a normal swing as soon as you hit an opponent, because that way you can get the most damage out of it. And if you for some reason need to cancel the ability fast, for example because you're dash striking right at Vader and you just realize he probably has a stroke ready, the fastest and most secure way of cancelling it would then just be a dodge. Also, you can only hit the same opponent once with it, so there's no point in not cancelling it with a normal attack unless you're trying to dash strike through multiple enemies. Her second ability is her insight ability, and as you probably already know, this ability just works like a wall hack for you and your team. But what a lot of players don't know is it actually also reduces your stamina drain by 50%, increases your damage by 10 HP, and actually also removes you from the minimap. Also, you never have to be afraid of activating this ability since it won't cancel your block, even though it has an animation, but that animation can also just get cancelled by a normal swing without cancelling the ability. Her third ability is her mind trick, which just inverts the controls and lowers the sensitivity of the affected enemies. And it actually also makes them visible through walls and objects while they still are affected by the mind trick. The fact that it lowers your enemy's sensitivity can often make it fairly easy to dodge behind them and damage them in the back, without them being able to turn around in time. However, what you should keep in mind is that you are vulnerable to pretty much everything during the mind trick animation. You don't have any damage reduction or crowd control immunity, so don't use it when someone is swing spamming you or something like that. Now with her basic character stats covered, let's move on to which star cards I would recommend you to use. So the star cards loadout that works the best for me is Balance, Focused Sight, and Damage Strike, and that's also what I would recommend you to use. Her balance card gives you an extra dodge on the cost of 15% stamina, which is definitely worth it. And regardless of which star card's loadout I choose, I always make sure to have the balance card equipped, since that's really her strongest card in my eyes. The star card Focused Sight just increases the duration of insight, and as I said, you have 50% stamina drain reduction and deal 10 more damage while insight is active. So that's also definitely worth it. And Damage Strike just increases the damage Dash Strike deals. Now, if you feel like you struggle with managing your stamina, I would just change Damage Strike with Street Fighter, which just gives you 15% stamina back that the balance card is taking from you, but I will still keep the balance card equipped. And if you feel like you often get damaged a lot while you use Dash Strike, you could also try to use Resilient Dash instead of Damage Strike. And Resilient Dash just gives you 40% damage reduction while Dash Strike is active. But the reason I prefer Damage Strike is just that I think 40% is a little bit low. Like for example, Grievous gets 90% damage reduction while he uses Claw Rush if he has the right star card equipped. And the last loadout I could recommend you is if you feel like you hit your opponents a lot more while they are mind tricked, and you like the idea of using mind trick and insight together, this loadout is probably something you might find useful. Deep Mind just increases the duration of Mind Trick, but only if the opponents are revealed by Insight. And Opportunist lets you deal 15 extra damage on opponents that are affected by your Mind Trick, or any other immobilizing effect. As I already said, you can parry with Dash Strike, which is pretty easy to do and deals good damage, and also isn't really that risky to do. However, you can actually use dash strike right after a normal parry, and then instantly swing 2 times right after dash strike activates. This way you can deal from 490 up to 559 damage before your opponent is able to do anything. The timing of this combo can be pretty hard to get used to, but if mastered, it's probably one of the strongest combos in the game. I would highly recommend to activate Insight before using this combo, because that will add up 10 extra damage for each hit. And with this combo it really adds up. This combo will usually deal 490 HP without Insight and damage increasing star cards. With Insight on it will deal 520 damage, and with Insight and damage strike card it will deal 559 damage. However, if you have Insight active, mind trick your opponent, have damage strike card equipped and opportunist card equipped, then you should actually be able to deal 604 damage with it. However, I don't recommend using Opportunist because of this, since you will have to time it exactly in those 4 seconds where Mind Trick is active, and also most players don't really tend to try to attack you while they are Mind Tricked, and if they don't attack you, you can obviously not parry them, and without parry you can't use the combo. One tip I can give you for this combo, always try to use it right after you parry Grievous Thrust Surge, since Grievous Thrust Surge is pretty easy to parry, and thereby the combo is also a lot easier to time, and that's probably a pretty good way to get used to the timing of the combo. One last thing I have to add to this trick is, if I recall, you can also use dash strike right after a double parry, so technically the combo should also be possible with a double parry instead of just a single parry, which then would obviously deal over 100 more damage. But the timing for the double parry combo is even harder, and I think the timing for the single parry combo is hard enough to begin with. But once the timing of the single parry combo is really easy to you, you might try to get used to the double parry combo. If you get your camera behind your opponent during dash strike, it will go through his block. However, don't just try to dash strike right at your opponent's block, since that will most probably cancel out your dash strike before you can get your camera behind him. One thing that sometimes works pretty well is try to dash strike right at the side of your opponent and then quickly get the camera behind your opponent. One other thing you probably know already is you can only hit one opponent once with dash strike, so unless you're fighting multiple enemies, just cancel dash strike with a swing as soon as you hit your opponent, instead of trying to take an extra round and hit him with dash strike again, since that won't work. The reason I'm telling you this is because I still see a lot of people trying to do that. If you're familiar with jump swings or backslashes or jump hooks or whatever you want to call them, I like to just call them jump swings. So try to do one jump swing and then immediately activate dash strike right after the jump swing connects. And this also is a really strong combo, especially since most players don't even expect jump swings, so I can almost guarantee you they won't expect a dash strike right after a jump swing. However, just be careful here that you don't jump too high, since otherwise you won't get grounded in time to activate dash strike. However, if you're unfamiliar with jump swings, I recommend you try to learn jump swings before you try this combo. And the good thing is you don't need to be Rey to learn jump swings, it literally works with every Saber character in the game. If you want to learn it, I can especially recommend you Kylo, Dooku, Grievous, Rey, Luke and Obi-Wan for it. Use Mind Trick to immobilize enemies near edges, and then use Dash Strike to push them off the edge. However, maybe don't do this in fair 1v1 duels unless your opponent is trying to ledge you. So unless you don't have the balance card equipped, you will have 3 dodges, and I really recommend you to use them. You can for example use them to try to get behind your opponent. Since you always will have one more dodge than your opponent unless you fight Dooku, it's most likely to work at some point. However, if you're familiar with using jump swings, I would recommend to use them instead of trying to dodge behind your opponent. However, to try to dodge behind your opponent is of course way less risky than jump swings, so in some situations it's more recommended to use dodges instead of jump swings. However, one more advanced thing you could try is to use your dodges in a way to trick your opponent to waste his dodges, and once your opponent has wasted all his dodges, he can't really defend himself from jump swings. And unless you're fighting someone that spams you with jump swings, you don't really have to be afraid of running out of dodges, especially not when you have 3 dodges. However, if you're fighting someone that spams you with jump swings, be a little bit more careful with how you're using your dodges. Now I have a few last tips for you about which enemy hero abilities you need to be careful with and how you can counter them. Let's begin with Kylo's Frenzy. One thing that works pretty well to counter Kylo's Frenzy is just to use Dash Strike to cancel it out and deal some good damage. However, one thing you should know is that sometimes Kylo's Frenzy lock-on works like a dodge, and sometimes it can happen that his Frenzy goes right through your Dash Strike without him getting hit, and you end up receiving 3 to 4 hits. But if you are careful with the timing when you activate your Dash Strike, you should be able to avoid that. And technically you can even pull the dash strike parry combo against Frenzy. Okay, let's move on with Maul spin attack. Maul spin attack is probably one of the most annoying things to Rey, at least if you're playing against a good Maul that knows what he's doing, because Maul can just parry your dash strike using his spin attack with ease and pretty much no risk, since even if you hit him during his spin attack, he will get yeeted way too far away that you can hit him again. So against good Maul players, I recommend to go for one of the dash strike combos instead of just using it in a normal way. However, if you're close enough to him, you can use it while he uses his saber throw, since unlike Vader, Maul can't block while his saber isn't in his hands. Another thing you should be really careful with in general is Dooku's lightning stun, since if he knocks you once with it, you can lose an insane amount of HP, especially if he has duelist active. However, if you use dash strike from not too far away, and he uses lightning stun to stop you, it usually ends up with both being knocked. So it might be worth it to cancel his insane health regen, or if he has one hit, kill him with it. But be aware of that he can just dodge away and give you the lightning stun from the side, and then you're pretty much fucked. Against Grievous' Thrust Surge, the parry dash strike combo works really well. And even if you play against a Grievous that does the Thrust Surge block break trick, just turn in the same direction he turns and you will still be able to parry and probably use the dash strike parry combo. However, be careful with his Claw Rush, since if he has the damage card for it equipped, he can obviously still deal a lot of damage with it, and it can knock you out of your dash strike. One last thing, try to not dash strike into saber throws, especially not Vader's, since he can just block while his saber is flying for some stupid reason. And also be careful to not get choked by Vader, since one choke can really mess up your health. Now I think that was pretty much everything. I hope you learned something new. So thank you all for watching, and especially thanks for 100 subscribers, and see you on the next one. Bye.